on this week's episode of RamZ's Hoosier Pawn.
We have a piece of art that came in and wanted to get a little information from you about this. Now, just based upon what we've been able to find out, I'm thinking we'd want to be in the 3 to 350 range.
Oh, boy, I'd sure like to get around 600, but it's a piece of Nazi memorabilia that my uncle brought back from World War II.
You know that jewelry repairs are done right here at RamZ's Emporium.
Like this repair that we had to do on this bracelet.
All of the leaves, the stalks, and the designing that goes around this monument, which is dated from the 1800s. It's all done with hair.
What?
Human hair.
Are you serious?
This is Randy Ramsey, and this is his pawn store. He works here with his wife Melanie, sons Corey and Chad, and daughter Amanda. Many items here have a unique story. And after 25 years in the business, he's learned that you never know what's coming through the door next. This is RamZ's Hoosier Pawn.
I'm Dave. I was in a couple weeks ago and Randy gave me an offer on a painting, and I've thought it over and checked, and I think maybe I'm going to come in and take Randy's offer, and I'll sell that today.
Well, hi, Dave.
Hi, Randy.
What are you up to today?
Well, I brought my painting back in. You had made me an offer $3,000, and I believe I'm going to accept that, and I hope that you get as much enjoyment from this as I did.
We'll enjoy it until someone comes along that likes it more than we do.
Very good.
Thanks again. I'll have Harmony step up here and ring you out.
Thank you.
Right over here.
Thank you.
Coming up next on RamZ's Hoosier Pawn.
Remember when we started RamZ Exchange on Elmwood Avenue in 1988 with a little jewelry, coins, antiques, and collectibles?
Yes, and people had such needs for borrowing money, so we became the county's first licensed pawn shop so we could help.
Then we moved everything 20 years later to North Fairby Drive, doubling our space and renaming it RamZ's Emporium.
And we still care about people and their needs, giving as many loans as we can on items of value.
Get help from the caring people at RamZ's Emporium.
We're happy to have with us this morning Jan, who has knowledge in the field of art and has collected and evaluated particularly art that has to do with the state of Indiana. We're happy to have him here this morning with us.
Good to be here, Mr. Ramsey.
Welcome. We have a piece of art that came in and wanted to get a little information from you about this.
All right. Well, it's a handsome piece of art. So clearly we would say it's not a landscape, it's not a still life, it's not a genre or history painting, but it's a portrait. We don't, on close examination, have a signature, so we're left with some interesting questions. Who painted the painting? We're left with when it was painted, and of course who the subject is. But typically when we approach a painting, the first thing first, we do the physical examination and a description just like that. So we're left with a lot of questions.
Sure.
Because of what we don't have, in a sense, in date, no title, no signature.
So how do we answer some of those unanswered questions?
That's the clue. What we want to do is we want to get a painting to talk to us more than on first examination it has. So we would look carefully again the second time. We would say, is there anything we've missed? Here's an example of something one might do if one thought one had examined everything and come up with nothing. Here's a portrait. We look closely. Obviously, it's dirty, but nevertheless, it's a fine painting. Like this painting, it's clearly been pointed by a professional painter. It's not a folk painting. But then if one looks real close, and puts the magnifying glass on it under good light, and it would reveal itself when it was cleaned. It turns out there is a signature. The signature actually is A. Laurie, a local painter here in town from, well, 1900, 1902, depending on when who you believe, up to 1917, was a terrifically good portrait painter from the East Coast. The other thing, though, one would do is one would look again at the back. Now, here's an example of where one might just not imagine there's anything to learn. But as one looks carefully, one notices a label up here. Sometimes labels are on stretchers, other times they're on the frame. This frame is clearly original to the painting. I can tell by the oxidation marks along the side. And it says T.F. Burke, and on Asylum Street in Hartford, Connecticut. He has the 167 Asylum Street address only for 5 years. So we do research on this. We know he's there only for 5 years. We know this painting, if original to the frame, will triangulate around 1880, 1890 as a dating for the painting. And as it turns out, it took me quite a long time, but it turns out Laurie was in Hartford, Connecticut for 4 years. And those were the 4 years when he had that address. So now we start to feel better about what we say of the painting. The other thing one can do, of course, and I would wonder in this case, the painting comes in, we ask a lot of other questions like, where did you get it? Do you have any information about it? Have you any written records for us? Did anybody have anecdotal stories that they told about the painting? So I'm sort of wondering, the painting came in, was there a story that came with it? Was there help you got?
Actually, we do have a little more information about this particular painting. First of all, the gentleman told the story about how he acquired it and it was passed down through the family. But interestingly enough, there was a photograph of this gentleman here by Heine's from Lafayette, Indiana. Lafayette. So that brings him down to Lafayette at some point in time. And he said that this is actually his self-portrait. So now we have, he also, and he hasn't brought it in yet, said that he has a picture of him as a captain in the Civil War. So he has his captain's outfit, but then he also had a brochure that's called the Lowry Collection. Sure. And it shows an image of him and also gives pictures of some of the other artwork that he did. And interestingly enough, it appears that one of the examples that you showed earlier has the same name referenced.
Right. So it turns out the example I brought to illustrate how we clear up a painting is a Laurie, and you've got a Laurie here. Alexander Laurie Jr., it turns out, did come to Lafayette in 1900. He actually came earlier and then went back to New York. He's born in 1848 in New York. His father was a Scotsman that moved in 1828 to New York City. A very accomplished artist. By the time he was 15, he was apprenticing in a firm with Scatterburl and Telfer. Viewers might know the name, they might not. One way to accomplish some research in asking about questions of acquisition, this painting we looked at earlier, if we go back 2 generations, lands us with the Telfers. And it turns out the Telfers lived over by Brookston, and they came in 1860 and started farming there. That would have been his sister. Oh. Married a Telfer. And so they clearly met when they were youngsters in the art business. Alexander was in the Civil War, as you mentioned. He enlisted the second time in the 121st Pennsylvania Infantry Division. Burnside's Mud March, they called it, when he was exposed to the elements for 4 or 5 straight days. He got sick. Saw action at Fredericksburg, and then after the war remained sick. I found him in the Bellevue Hospital in New York. I found him in a Virginia inmate mental place. So it's sort of a sad story. He was a cantankerous old fellow, but as portraiture dropped off, he moved to the West. His claim to fame are 2 things: his landscapes, which are as scarce as hen's teeth and greatly sought after, and then his portraits, which, as you say, are Commonplace? No, they're not commonplace, that they are abundant. When he came to Indiana, he committed to painting all of Indiana's generals in the War of the Rebellion, in the Civil War. And so he did this, painted 50 of them. I found some newspaper articles yesterday from 1902, 1905, again in 1909, requesting if anybody has photographs of some gentlemen that he had yet to have painted.
Oh.
By the time he was done, he had 150 of them, and he bequested these by gift to the state of Indiana, didn't get a penny in return, and they now reside out in the Soldiers' Home in what they call the Laurie Library. The conditions aren't excellent, but there they are. And it's a great tribute to both the artist, who was, if not, he was irascible and hard to get along with, but he was clearly a generous man, but also a tribute to the great men of the War of the Rebellion, the Civil War.
Okay. Now, with something like this, how do you come up with a value then?
Right. That's really an important question. It's a good question. And in a sense, it's easy to answer, and in another sense, it's difficult to answer. It's not uncommon if we catch ourselves thinking it's an early portrait, it cleaned up nice, and then someone does the research and finds out, goodness, here's a 80-year-old gentleman, so clearly it was painted between 1902 and 1915. We might be able to narrow it a little bit better. We've got two other portraits out, self-portraits of Laurie out at the Soldiers' Home, and I know of one other on the East Coast that actually is a distant relative. So all right, we've got an old painting, and it's a terrific likeness, and it's historic, and it's got local history. I mentioned earlier to start, it's not a landscape. He did paint landscapes. He painted beautiful landscapes in the Hudson River Valley after he had gone to Dusseldorf, Germany to study with Leutze. Leutze painted Washington crossing the Delaware, the huge, iconic painting that everybody wants to go to the Metropolitan Museum to look at. He was a student of him, painted fantastic landscapes, but there aren't a lot of them. These can go for great figures. Portraits, they are more abundant. In evaluating, as you know better than I, in evaluating, one has to look at market and demand. And supply here is slim, but not so slim with portraits as it is for landscape. So this would be worth less than a landscape. One example I can give, I think, to sort of wrap this up, in a way, our most famous Indiana artist would be T.C. Steele. T.C. Steele's landscapes can run from, on the low end, $20,000 to $30,000, up to $220 here some years back for a terrifically good painting of his daughter at the piano. His portraits, T.C. Steele portraits, our great T.C. Steele, the Indiana artist, he did paint portraits. $1,000, $2,000, so we think it's a T.C. Steele, here's the signature. Well, the decorative value in a home is considerably less than what the painter was known for in T.C. Steele's case and desired for in Alexander Laurie's case of the Hudson River Valley landscapes. So one needs to take into account, obviously, the supply and also the demand. And on the demand side, it typically goes to the decorative side. And portraits, people tend to find not so decorative. I personally find them historically interesting and fascinating, and it's important and worthy of, having cleaned like this one did, and then we hope finding a good home. So
good. Well,
handsome gentleman. I like his beard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly appreciate your input and your information that you have for us today.
Oh, I'm tickled to be able to see it.
Yeah, and
thank you.
I would appreciated your ability and knowledge on other paintings that we've gotten in.
Right, my pleasure. You always have interesting things for us to see.
Thanks again.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Okay.
Coming up next, this is Randy RamZ, and this is RamZ's Emporium. He works here with his sons Corey and Chad. You never know what's coming through the door next.
A Native American transformation mask.
Authenticated Jim Brown and Walter Payton autographed football.
Taylor Model 810.
If you're looking for one-of-a-kind items, go to RamZ's on North Farabee Drive, Lafayette.
It's just unbelievable, the variations of things that come into our store. Guess what this is made out of?
I have no idea. It looks like sketching.
All of the leaves, the stalks, and the designing that goes around this monument, which is dated from the 1800s. It's all
pretty.
done with hair.
What?
Human hair.
Are you serious? Let me see that thing. You are kidding me. Wow, look at that. That tree, it's got the leaves that coming, or branches that are coming down. There's swoops of hair.
I actually had a woman come in a couple of weeks ago that had a picture frame, probably 2 foot by 2 foot, and in the center was a wreath with all the flowers in the wreath, and it was all done with human hair.
Oh, I wish I could have seen that one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I bet that was fantastic. Look, it's on this monument, it's got a date of 1857 and 1901. It's so tiny. That is amazing. Yes, so is that what you want me to do with your hair as it starts falling out? Make pictures with it?
You can remember me that way.
Okay, I'll do that.
My name is Stan, and I acquired a couple of, I think they're camel saddles, and from a friend of mine, and I thought I'd bring them in here today and kind of see what they're worth. I'm kind of thinking maybe they're worth around $600, so I thought I'd come in here and see what we can do.
Hello there. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Stan.
Stan. My son Chad.
Hi.
Chad, pleased to meet you.
How'd you hear about us?
Well, I actually didn't know what I had, and I eat dinner at Tom's Parkside Deli every day, and my friends up there said, hey, this would be a place to go, and they may have some information on this. Maybe they can help me out.
It's great.
Well, it looks pretty interesting. I would surmise that this is a camel saddle. And you've got 2 complete sets of these?
Yes, I do.
We've got the saddle, and we've got the stirrups with it. We've got straps that go under the saddle, or the camel itself. We've got a blanket that goes on top of the saddle. We've got a blanket that goes under the saddle, and just the piece for the mouth, just a complete set. What kind of history do you know about this?
Well, all I know is that the lady that worked for her, she was in the military at one time, and I believe that these came when she was stationed in Egypt, and I think she may have taken lessons, and that's probably where she acquired them.
And how did you get them in?
Well, she's a friend of mine, and I've done a lot of work for her, and I was actually cleaning out her garage, and that's what she was in a box. She said, this is your, whatever you can get out of this will be your pay for working.
So would you take $10?
No, I don't think so. I looked on the computer. I know a little bit about them.
What are you thinking about selling it or getting a loan on it? Or?
I have no use for them. I don't. Camel saddles in Indiana. I'm just thinking I'm going to try to sell it.
Very good. It's just another interesting thing. If you've ever come to RamZ's before, you'll notice we have just all kinds of interesting things, and it never ceases to amaze me, the new items that are coming in every day. What kind of money were you hoping to get out of this?
Well, I guess I was looking on the computer a little bit. I guess I'd like $300 a piece, maybe $600 for the pair.
$600. Let me have one of my sons do a little bit of looking here, if you got just a moment, sure. And we'll see what we can find out about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're wanting to get how much again?
I'd like to get $600 for the pair.
What did you find out?
The information I looked up, they seem to be running in the 125 to 300 range, maybe 350 a piece.
Okay. Obviously, it's not something that everybody needs. It's more of a novelty. Some people may take it and have it made into a little stool, and other people, if they have a camel, may choose to use it.
Right.
Yeah, just based upon what we've been able to find out, I'm thinking we'd want to be in the 300 to 350 range.
Oh boy, I sure like to get around 600, but would you consider 4.5 maybe?
Well, if the market were a little stronger on it, or if they were used a little more here in the state of Indiana, but I just don't see that happening. Most people are just going to use it for more of a novelty.
I think there's a few llama farms around here.
Yeah, I doubt if you could use it on a llama, but no. I guess the very best that I would do would be the 350.
350, that's a bit. Well, I guess I'll take that. That sounds good to me.
Very good.
You
I
bet.
appreciate you taking time to come in, and I'll have Chad write you up.
All righty.
Right this way.
Thank you. Well, I was really hoping to get 6 or a little more maybe, but after listening to Randy, I think I think a $350 is a fair price, so I'm good with that. Go and do business with him. I think that's probably the best I can do in Indiana for sure.
Coming up next on RamZ's Hoosier Pawn. This is Randy RamZ, and this is RamZ's Emporium. He works here with his wife Melanie and his daughter Amanda. You never know what's coming through the door next.
Turn of the century 14-karat white gold filigree diamond and sapphire bracelet.
A lady's antique bracelet with rose-cut diamonds.
A beautiful freshwater pearl necklace.
If you're looking for one-of-a-kind items, go to RamZ's on North Farabee Drive in Lafayette.
Did you know that jewelry repairs are done right here at RamZ's Emporium?
Where you'll never know what's coming in the door next.
This is our full-service repair department, where we do anything from ring sizing to custom designing your one-of-a-kind piece. This is our master goldsmith busy repairing a customer's ring. We can even do garbage disposal disasters. We'll take great care of your treasured items right here in our store.
Like this repair that we had to do on this bracelet. This customer was putting her hand out the window, and when she did, her bracelet flew off. And as she was going to go get the bracelet, it got run over by a car.
Wah, wah, wah.
Definitely. So she brought it into our store, and look what we did. We completely repaired the whole thing, and it doesn't even look like anything happened to it.
Wow, that looks fantastic. Remember, if you need jewelry repair, come and see Amanda or I, and we'll fix you right up.
Hello,
Well,
welcome
hello
to
there.
RamZ's.
Hello, my name is Randy. I'm sorry.
Nice to meet you. That's all right.
Nice to meet you.
And what's your name again?
My name's Rick. Eaton.
Rick. Good to have you. What do you have with you today?
It's a piece of Nazi memorabilia that my uncle brought back from World War II.
There's a lot of concerns. Some people. I had a friend of mine who was set up at an antique show at a mall, and he actually had somebody go to his booth and stand there until he removed everything that was Nazi related. So there are some people that are pretty sensitive, but if they understand that there are people that don't buy this because they condone what they represented, but they're more collecting military related things
Historical stuff.
and more historical. Although some people become rather hysterical about it because of all the things that they did during World War II. We recently had a flag come in that was Japanese related, and some people still have trouble. How did you come by this?
I inherited it when he died.
Oh, okay. So passed down through the family.
Yes.
We've had a lot of military related things come through that means, and then we have other things where people collect it, and then they decide. We have guys that come in and they've collected coins, and then they decided to collect pocket watches, and then they decide to collect guns. So they're trading this one for that one and upgrading and so forth.
Wasn't there a guy that came in, it was at our old location, and had a gold bar with the German markings on it?
Yeah, he actually had a kilo gold bar that his uncle had confiscated during World War II.
Wow.
And he traded it for a farm. And I thought that was all there was to it. And I talked to him this year, and he said, "Yeah, I've got another one." So we may end up getting another gold bar that's got a Nazi proof marking on it. We've had a lot of Nazi-related things. I think one of the most unusual things I had this year, I had a typewriter with the SS key in it. It was the only typewriter I'd had.
In the old location, we had that 30-foot building flag.
Yeah, we've
super
had flags, and we've had daggers. We've had just a variety of military-related things. Is this something you're thinking about selling or getting a loan on?
Boy, possibly selling, but
just possibly
kind of just wanted to see what it was worth. It's very sentimental, but
I have purchased these before. They're not super rare, but the other concern is there are some of these that are copies. This one I think is real, just based upon the way it's constructed and some of the patina on it, but there are a lot of these floating around that are counterfeit and reproductions. What kind of price range were you thinking about?
Boy, I really haven't thought about it. I have no idea. I have no idea what these things are worth.
just based upon having sold one before and having seen some around, you just don't see them every day, obviously. But it's something I know Corey's even done some looking on the internet, and some you can't find listings on prices on some of it because
they just don't allow you on certain sites to post it. I know eBay has sort of knocked anything off potentially. You can do some stamp things and things like that, but anything that was acquired, most of that stuff's really tough to find finished pricing on, so it's real tough that route.
I had one piece that was basically the same design but smaller, and it was done in bisque, and the guy popped it off of a wall in Germany during World War II. I guess just as a beginning point, for me to be a buyer on a piece like this, I'm thinking we would want to be into it about 250 and try to sell it about 350. That's just based upon having sold one already and also having seen some for sale. Is that anything that you want to consider?
Boy, that wouldn't be enough. Too sentimental.
Okay, well, and you're not under any obligation.
Yeah, right.
The other
probably a fair price.
And we have done this with some customers, depending upon what they're interested in doing. We would consider bumping it up to 3 to 3.5 on a trade on something else in the store. Sometimes the person says, well, I want a TV, or I want a piece of jewelry, or I want a firearm, and something. So we would
and
consider.
For us, it's just swapping out merchandise that might change, change the look of the place.
Yeah, we're just changing into a different piece of merchandise. Whoops, as Corey was saying. So if that's that's another consideration. Of course, you're not under any obligation to make a decision, but that's where we're coming from. What levels are you, in your mind, aspirations that you had?
Boy, it'd have to be in the thousands for me to part with it. That's
gotcha.
Yeah, it's a war trophy. I keep my uncle's dog tags around it on the
nice.
wall.
And sometimes things do have more sentimental value than the person's willing to give up or put a price on it. But we certainly appreciate the opportunity to take a look at it. And
likewise.
And if at a later date you decide to liquidate it, you know where we are, and be happy to consider it.
All right, thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
store.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you
for
so
coming
much.
in.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming in with it.
Have a nice evening.
Yeah, you too.
Yep, let you can
All right,
put it on
thank
the
you
wall.
very much.
Yeah, put the dog tags back on for now.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
On next week's episode of RamZ's Hoosier Pawn.
My name is Rick. Today I brought in an ivory lamp, so I'm going to talk to Randy about trading my lamp for the $140 I have on my layaway item.
Did you know that jewelry repairs are done right here at RamZ's? Wait, am I supposed to say RamZ's Emporium?
Yes.
Whatever.
Did you know that jewelry repairs are done right here at RamZ's Emporium?
What am I supposed to say?
And you never know what's coming through the door next.
Okay.
Did you know that jewelry repairs were done right here at RamZ's Emporium?
Where?
I looked away.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's awesome. Wow, that's awesome.
That was pretty exciting.